A mockbuster. This leech on the film industry has been around for decades, fooling parents and viewers by sounding very similar to a popular film at the time, and by the time they realize it's a knockoff, the studio already has their money and used it to run away from the fucking backlash. One of these studios is Video Brinquedo, which I'm sure absolutely no one has ever covered before on YouTube. Founded in 1995, the studio based in Brazil initially distributed home video releases of shows like Sonic X, before deciding they liked having more money and decided to start making their own movies. Now, since these movies are in a foreign language, this would be a very difficult assignment for me, a non-Portuguese speaker, or at least it would be if most of these films didn't get dubbed into English and or have English subtitles. So I tracked down most of the studio's catalog and decided to review them all in one video. I would worry about my mental health, but the mental health crisis during the first pandemic was reported as minimal, so I should be fine. I mean, it's not like they'd lie or anything. For their first film, it could honestly be a lot worse. This movie's a child-friendly version of the original fairy tale, so basically just Disney's original film, on a Sam & Sandwich budget. Actually, I take that back, since Salmon could likely animate better than this shit. The color theory's all over the place, the fluidity is bad, the character designs are ugly as sin and unappealing to look at. It's a messy film to look at, basically. That said, if I put aside that this looks like a crappy Flash game you'd see on Newgrounds back in the day, the film itself is just another retelling of Pinocchio. It's not bad, absolutely not great. It's just a passable movie I could see parents showing their kids for an afternoon, and it would still be more educational than Peppa Pig or its sequel, Salta-Pig. So, not off to a bad start.
We stand for slapping bad characters.
So, how do you follow up an ultimately harmless retelling of a fairy tale? You make a movie about the main lead bitching and moaning about how she doesn't want to follow the beats of her story, and also get berated by the moldy mage of the Midwest who operates at 2 frames a second. It would have been 3, but that fatal frame went on strike. But don't worry, fans of Rapunzel, there's still a romance that occurs between the princess and prince. They just had to find a prince that was just as intolerable as the fucking princess.
Oh, you're so dramatic!
And damn proud of it, mystical prince man thing. Also, one of the ways Rapunzel doesn't abide by the rules of the story is that she refuses to clean her hair, so she's just a perfect fucking role model for Melee players. But yeah, on top of continuing to have bad looking animation, the Brinquedo film also decides to have a shitty story and bland characters. Really, this movie boils down to, do the thing! No. Do the thing! No. Do the thing! Okay. Really? No. Now clean the floor. Then again, if I had listened to this all day,
all the things you have to say for my ears don't mean a thing.
I'd probably start whittling down the floors of that mystery liquid 2 times, then 3, and then 5 more for good measure. My terrible attempt at puns aside, the music is also incredibly poor. The vocal songs have terrible lyrics and composition, the vocal performances are somehow more inconsistent than mine, and that is saying a fucking lot. Nothing about this film works. Could deserve better than this garbage. Then again, they shouldn't see or read Rapunzel in the first place, so at least the film got that part accurate. So, 2 films down, and it's been a weird one so far. Hopefully the next one isn't as bad.
Ah, my crystals.
Funnily enough, this film was the first one in the catalog to directly rip off the popular film at the time. Man, I can't believe they ripped off Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift into my DMs. I joke, but this Cars knockoff is surprisingly better than Cars. Certainly no masterpiece, but if Cars is a film I could describe as a 16-car pileup on the freeway with horns blaring and fires all over the goddamn place, Little Cars is more like rear-ending the car in front of you. Certainly not a good thing to happen, and it's very much annoying, but you'll shrug it off and move on with your day.
Sorry to disagree, Mr. V. I love it when race season begins.
The story isn't anything too special. It's about a living car named Cruz who wants to be the champ racer, and through weird shenanigans, including the villain poisoning the champ's fuel supply with vegetable oil or some sort, Cruz wins the big race. Again, it's not anything too special, but it's a serviceable plot with decent pacing and characters that don't make me want to slam into a brick wall. Some of the cast can be pretty fucking boring and tiresome, like Combo, the Laird, the Cable Guy, Truck XP thing, and Chris, the Sally XP, with less of a personality than any Nissan car. But a decent chunk of the cast are fine. Not great, but also not terrible.
I bet your money on the champ, Mr. V8.
The animation is slightly better, it looks like a decent GameCube launch title. The character models are fine enough, and the fluidity is tolerable? Yeah, at least it's not running at 2 frames like that last movie. It's also shorter than Cars, so that's an added bonus in this film's favor. Again, Little Cars is absolutely not a masterpiece. It's average at best. But you could put your kid in front of it for a bit, and they'd probably have a decent experience with the film. What I won't take are the sequels to this movie. These films are basically everything I hated about Cars, but amplified by 10, with worse writing, worse characters that are more one-note than tissue paper, and with worsening animation as the sequels went on. Wait, where was I? Oh yeah, right. Next up is Ratatouille. Yet again, we have a knockoff of a Disney/Pixar property, but unlike Little Cars, I didn't like this movie, and I don't even think it's average, I just think it's fucking terrible. This movie's about a mice owning a restaurant in a world of talking mice, and have to stop the bad guy from getting the secret formula, or some crap like that. I tuned out after the first 2 minutes because this shit was visual white noise. Barely anything of note happened, and it felt like I was watching paint dry over the course of this film's runtime. The characters are drier than the Sahara, with not a whole lot going on. The animation is back to being cheap looking and not very fluent. The music is non-existent for most of it, and the ones that are inserted are forgettable schlock. Hell, wasn't this designed for children? This shit would likely scare most kids. At least Ratatouille's designs didn't look like they came out of the Great Value Chuck E. Cheese. You had multiple jobs, and you couldn't even do any of them right, you non-living piece of media.
Yes! Yes!
Oh yes, because when I think Transformers, I think a fucking tournament arc. So, what's the plot? Well, a robot is sold into slavery and has to fight other robots for a chance to survive. We're basically a robot version of the draft. Joyous, does this movie at least have any good characters to root for? Nope. All the characters are flat and uninteresting, and I'm given no reason to care about any of them living or dying, no matter how many times they say certain characters' fucking names.
Julius Drive. Julius Drive. Julius Drive. Julius Drive. Julius Drive.
I don't give a fuck about Prince Julius drives me up a fucking wall no matter how many times you say it, film. Hell, despite this character's attempt to be a big ham on the screen, Great Value Megatron over here is incredibly forgettable as a character, and especially antagonist. Like, how do you fuck up Okay, fair enough. Still though, could we at least have some decent fights, even if everything else about the movie is crap? Nope, couldn't even get that. These fights are poorly paced, and the size of it dragging out for a billion years. The actions and set pieces are incredibly bland and unappealing to the eyes. It's not very good, and considering this is the main portion/focus of the film, that is not at all a good thing. And yet, despite all this nonsense, despite this movie sucking more dicks than the amount you'd see on RoboHub, this shit got a sequel. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say sequel? Because this is more like a repackaged version of the first film, but with new models. Who fucking Ray. Even better, it ends on a sequel hook. A hook that has still never come out. Good. Thank fuck I don't need to deal with this shit anytime soon. Alright, what's next on the list? Littleby. Sure, why not? According to all known laws of filmmaking, there's no way a B-movie should be able to work. Its premise is too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The B-movie, of course, tries anyways, because they don't care. And after seeing this movie, neither do I. This film feels like visual white noise once again. The characters are flat and uninteresting. The story is about two bees from different jobs wanting to do something else, and unfortunately falling into a bee trap and dying is not one of them. So instead, we're stuck watching these two idiots for an hour where basically nothing of note fucking happens. Oh, and shocker of all shocks, the audio/animation isn't that great either. But hey, look Ma, I found a B-movie worse than the B-movie! Hooray! Alright, what's next on this here thingy? Little Princess School. Oh, so Jeffrey Epstein's favorite movie. And so I'm contractually obligated to say it's bad and to bury it far, far away from the Ep of Jeff. Next up, oh boy, the Panda Fighter. A movie about a panda that wants to be a dancer while the Coke Bear does coke and beats up his critics for dissing the Bear of Cocaine movie picture thingy. Well, I look for a fuck to give about this meandering white noise of Jackie Blackjack's furry OC kicking movie with his fellow furry OC kicking companions like the Horsey and NFT's Nuts Bro, a Dildo, Ray Floorweed, and Steve. Everyone knows Steve, right? Of course you do. You know what everyone else doesn't know, though? Well, they got a cock-off called Tiny Robots, where they just meander over yander for the runtime. Well, I watched the paint on my walls turn into flying fucking elephants. Sad thing is, that attempt at me going insane likely had more effort put into it than these last few films in Brinkato's catalog combined. Let's just wrap this up because this is just getting tiresome. Little and Big Monsters as well as What's Up Balloon to the Rescue are part of the same universe, because fuck it I guess, so I'll cover them both. As it stands, they're both just more white noise visually displayed on the screen, and it only further gives credence to the idiotic idea that Verankodo stopped giving a shit about quality because these films have nothing to really comment on. The characters are bland once again, the stories are forgettable and paced poorly, the animation is ass once again, and
I don't want that Chinese guy in there with my monsters!
Did you try showing him a fortune cookie?
Hey, Beijing! Give me a hand, will ya?
okay, wow. Just, wow. Fuck this movie. Seriously, I'm surprised I got past standards and practices in the first place. Never mind. Wow. We were kind of assholes to the Chinese back in the day, weren't we? Jesus. Okay, well, hey. It's a good thing, though, that we at least learned from that, and didn't engage in any attacks during the first pandemic when conspiracies were going wild about China starting it.
Right.
Speaking of rights, Cinderella and Frog Prince are going right the fuck in the garbage because, once again, these look terrible, and watching them made me feel terrible because they were fucking boring as hell. Alright, one more and we're done. Soccer Passion.
That's not bad.
Sorry I'm late, guys.
When did this come out again? 2010? Motherfucker, I've seen better looking animation from Gmod back in the late 2000s. Fucking Pivot Animations had better fluidity than this shit, and that program had the budget of a salmon sandwich behind it. How in the FIFA world, fuck, you have a movie look worse than animations made by literal children? Even if I put the animation away in the goalpost, the movie itself has boring characters, a flat and uninteresting story about two teams playing a soccer match so that the main guy can be a good soccer player or some crap like that, and pacing that feels like it moves at the speed of an actual soccer match. I'm given little to no reason to care about any of these characters, nor story, and yet, this film drags its feet for nearly an hour as if it's trying to say something important, when the end result is just more visual white noise. Fuck me. And that's pretty much it for the catalog. From what I researched, the studio did one more movie after this called Barquinos before going silent, and like the other movies in their later years, it's just more visual white noise with barely any substance to it. You know what else that doesn't help? His art style screams, "Be a Theodore Tugboat at home." Overall, this was a slog to go through, as a good chunk of the movies were just boring, bland white noise that not even fetuses should be put through, let alone the studio's target audience of children. But, are they the worst studio like some would claim? Honestly, if you asked me this question years ago, I would say yes, since apathy was worse than getting angry or depressed about a piece of media. Nowadays, however, I would answer with no. Yes, a good chunk of these movies suck. Don't get me fucking wrong on that. However, the thing about apathy is that it eventually fades, and after a while, I started to forget about a good chunk of these movies until I worked on this video. Something I couldn't say about works that genuinely pissed me off, like Tokyo Ghoul's animes, Digimon Last Evolution Kizuna, or Ruby's later volumes.
Ew! What the fuck?
Those evoked a much stronger emotional response from me, and as such remained in my memories for much longer, making them much worse in my eyes than a bunch of crappy mockbusters, which was what most of Brinkado's catalog was composed of. Could they make a return in the future? Maybe. But I don't see it happening anytime soon. For now though, it's time I close the book on the topic. So, thank you all for watching, and take care.